Good morning, everyone. UselessFodder here with Grim, BDGxGRIM, Blue Diamond Gaming, active U.S. Army soldier, and real-life G.I. Joe. Welcome to Check Your Six podcast, which is all about, your hardcore first-person shooters and tactical games, realistic games, whatever you want to call it. Thank you so much for those bits, Save Last Kill, and Axagorus. Thanks for that resub, man. So this morning, we're going to be doing this sort of interview live, so I thought it'd be kind of fun for everyone to get to hear what Grim has to say and maybe lob some questions his way. So good morning, Grim. How's it going?
Good morning. It's going pretty well right now.
How early did that morning come for you?
It came fast, but I got my coffee, so we're good.
I'm literally doing the same thing right now. So, yeah, why don't you just give a little intro for maybe anyone who doesn't know who you are?
Yeah. So I'm Grim. I just go by Grim, but my Twitch would be BDGxGRIM, which the BDG stands for Blue Diamond Gaming, which is a little bit of a group that me and my friends made up back home. I've been in the Army now for about 5 years and serving in the 75th Ranger Regiment in 3rd Ranger Battalion as an infantryman, and been a gamer my entire life. Of love video games. It's honestly drawn me closer to the military, just in the interest and all of the tactical games there are, and yeah, here I am now.
Awesome. So what made you want to go into the Army, and past that, what made you want to kind of take that extra step and I mean really go for the gusto and join the Rangers?
So I kind of had phases when I was younger. When I first started getting really interested in the military, I remember telling my mom when I was in middle school, I was like, "Mom, I'm gonna join the Marine Corps," and she kind of laughed that off. And I, like, honestly, when I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do in the military, I would look up on YouTube, and at that time, which was like early 2000s, when I was looking at it, everything on YouTube was the Marine Corps doing stuff in Afghanistan, and I was like, "Ooh, that's really cool," and I thought that was really sweet. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be a Marine." And by the time I finished high school, I think I was about a year from graduating high school. Um, I went to the recruiters for the Marines, and basically by the end of that, I don't know, I wasn't entirely feeling Marine Corps. And on top of that, my parents were like, "You know what? We would really like you to get some college in first before you go to the Army," or not the Army, the Marine Corps. And I was like, "Okay, that makes sense." So I went to law enforcement, small community college up from my home state in Minnesota, called Alexandria Technical and Community College. I went there for 2 years, got an associate's in law enforcement. And during that time, I had a Navy SEAL phase. Whereas, like, for the past 2 years of being in that college, I was like, I'm going to be a SEAL. And I started training really hard for it. I would go swimming at the local pool there. I would run. I would do everything I could, just because I think during that time it was like, I think they had Lone Survivor that came out that time. They had a bunch of different SEAL movies and books that I've read. And I was all about it. I had a huge SEAL phase. And then right before I graduated college, kind of reality started hitting for me, because I was like, I'm not really that good at swimming. And yeah, and I kind of just had a moment with myself. I was like, you know what? SEALs are great, but then that's when I actually started looking up, and I learned about the 75th Ranger Regiment through other podcasts and stuff from some of the guys. One of them was Inside the Team Room, and I watched their thing on a bunch of the Rangers, and I was like, and after learning more about them, I was like, well, they do basically what the SEALs do, just minus a little bit of the water stuff. And I was like, that seems like a better fit for me. So that's kind of like how I chose to try and go into the Army and get a what's called an Option 40 contract to get to the regiment.
Well, that's awesome. So what did your parents think when you had said for so long, I'm gonna go Marine Corps, and then you're like, I'm gonna go SEAL, and then you're like, I'm gonna go Army? Were they supportive, or?
It's funny when I first told my mom that I was going to go in the Marine Corps when I was like, and this was when I was like young. She just kind of laughed it off. Thought it was. She's like, yeah, okay, whatever. You'll change. You'll change your mind later. And I mean, she was right. I did end up changing my mind, but I didn't end up changing my mind about going to the military. I just ended up
Yeah.
changing my branch. So as I slowly got closer to like graduating high school, they started taking it more seriously and stuff, and they support it. They absolutely support it. But you know, I mean, a mother can support it as much as a mother could, just because
Yeah.
she doesn't want her baby boy to go and leave her for a while. So
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, I think almost anyone who's been in the military has had that experience, unless they have a strong, like, unless their like mom was in the military. Was
mhm.
any of your family in the military? Did you have strong ties to the military?
Yeah, my I guess what drew my attention to the military the most, my grandfather, he served in the army. He served during the Korean War. He was a first lieutenant in an artillery unit. Um, and luckily he didn't have to go to Korea. I think just mainly because they needed him to help train guys to go to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
But he told me all the stories of his army days, which then sparked my interest. And then I knew my uncle. He also was in the army for about 2-3 years, and he was a Green Beret in 10th Special Forces Group. So that's when that just hearing those stories from those two, and um, looking up things myself, and always having an interest in World War II and seeing Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan's probably got to be my absolute favorite movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think it's kind of funny that uh, I didn't realize those guys were Rangers at the time, or playing Rangers in the movie, and I was like, huh. Now here I am. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, like that history of where the Rangers came from, and like their mission hasn't necessarily it's changed a bit or whatever. Maybe just the rest of the military has kind of changed around it, but that like genesis of sort of those specific training for a really special, very important mission kind of happening way back when, almost what, 70 odd years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So you went into the army. You said that you had the option 40 contract, right? So that's the
Yep.
one where you have a guaranteed shot at ranger school. Doesn't mean you have a guaranteed to be a ranger, right? It just basically means that you
So
get a shot at it.
yep. So basically, when you get an option 40 contract, you have a guaranteed shot at RASP, which stands
Mm-hmm.
for Ranger Assessment and Selection Program. You don't get a guarantee. Well, you do kind of get a guaranteed shot at Ranger School once you get to regiment, but it's kind of like a little probationary period. As soon as you get to regiment, then they kind of groom you to get you ready to go to school to get your Ranger tab, which is like all encompassing. Like you're nothing unless you get your Ranger tab in the regiment. Um, you actually, that's when you actually start getting some respect. So um, yeah, getting an option 40 contract is about, you get a chance to go to Ranger Assessment and Selection Program to get into the regiment. There's like a whole nother thing that people always get it confused with. Ranger School and Ranger and RASP are two completely different things. And I'm not trying to like down anybody who graduates Ranger School and isn't in regiment, but there's like obviously a running theme in the army. I won't I guess keep it a secret or anything like that. Like personally, I think if you graduated Ranger School, like that's great, good on you. But there's a lot of people with the opinion, especially guys in regiment, like that you're not a real Ranger unless you've graduated Ranger School and you're in Ranger Regiment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of like the culture, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's definitely something that I ran into when I was in the army. A lot of officers that we would have who were infantry at one point would go through Ranger School, but they never went to battalion. They were, they went through Ranger School, got their tab, and then went on to do other completely different stuff, whether it be signal or space or whatever. So I definitely get what you're saying there. So how was RASP?
Um, at the time, I thought it was pretty hard, but after being here for as long as I've been here, which I don't think is, I've been here very long. I know people have been here longer, obviously, but it's honestly pretty, if easier said than done. But if you just if you put up with the BS, you will make it. As long as you make the minimum physical standards to get through RASP, everything else is just purely mental. So like, you're gonna be getting smoked a lot. You're gonna be tired most of the time and all this stuff. But as long as you make the minimum requirements, which is the PT test, the ruck, and a couple other things like land nav and all that stuff, and don't fail a land nav and don't get any sort of integrity violations, you'll be just fine and you'll make it into regiment. So when I went through it, I thought, that was pretty hard. But now that I've been through it, it's like there's a saying in regiment is it's easy to get into regiment, but it's hard to stay in regiment.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. And that's, how do you feel it is on the balance of like, you appreciate, like on one side being you appreciate that you're in a unit that clearly it's been self-selecting, you have a lot of talented, motivated, driven individuals on one side, versus there's also a whole lot of BS and like kind of like, because as far as I can tell, it's sort of like the most distilled down version of the Army BS that you guys deal with there in Ranger Bat. How would you feel it is kind of like your experience?
Are you asking like the contrast between like being in like say the regular Army and then being in regiment?
Yeah, as far as like, hurry up and wait and the ridiculous trainings and the early to early 15 minutes to the 15 minutes to the 15 minutes and all the stuff that grinds you down as a soldier, where you're like, if we could just
those are all still there. Those are all definitely still there in regiment. It's not like there's anything special for that. Regiment is considered to be the standard bearer for the Army. So anything that the big Army should follow is the regiment sets it. Like I remember, like for a good example would be like when the Army switched over to the OCP camouflage uniform. We had to switch over to that a year early because we're the standard bearer. And I think regiment kind of rides a really gray line, or really thin line, in being they have to be the standard bearer for the Army, but they also work in special operations. So like from one time when we had a briefing, I believe it was my battalion commander who said this, or maybe a battalion sergeant major, and he said the main question is, are guys in Ranger Bat, are they infantrymen who do special operations tasks, or are they special operations that do infantry tasks? And he kind of puts it, most people were confused by his answer, but it kind of makes sense in a way. He's like, well, both of those are wrong. We're Rangers, so people at first thought that like, okay, he's just kind of avoiding the question, but he made sense if you really look into it, because there is times where it's like we're infantrymen who perform special operations tasks just like any other infantryman, like the 82nd or 101st or any other infantry unit. And then there's times where we could be like special operations that just performs infantry tasks. Like we kind of have to be on both sides of the spectrum.
Awesome. So sort of pivoting a little bit, I know you said that you played video games for a good chunk of your life. That's always been like a core aspect of who you are. How did you get into like the content creation, making YouTube videos and streaming?
I think it's always interested me. I never really fully got into it until about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. I think I started trying to do it back in 2018 when I got back from my second deployment. Yeah. And I got back and I was just really bored, and I was I was going through some stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start streaming on Twitch, and I kind of made the age-old mistake of just going live whenever I gamed, and not kind of building other things on other platforms to kind of get people there, because I think as you and I know, there isn't a lot of discoverability on Twitch. But I started doing that the first, I don't know, year, and then I kind of took a break from it, and then I really got back into it. Probably, I would say, maybe 6 to 8 months ago. I really got back into it.
Awesome. And it's something. Is it something that you're able to do, or you have been able to do while on deployment, or is it is the internet and or computer too spotty wherever you've been to be able to continue supporting it?
This last deployment, I was fortunate enough to have some time on my hands and also to have good internet. So
Yeah.
while I was deployed, I was putting out videos almost daily for most of my deployment on YouTube, and kind of pushing out content that way. I wasn't able to, of course, live stream, but I was definitely putting out a lot on YouTube. I was I was first starting to make my Instagram and Twitter and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm still working on the Instagram and Twitter stuff, trying to, like, fill that out. But my YouTube, I definitely have been hustling hard on that.
Yeah, it was like daily videos that I saw when you were
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm coming back here in a couple weeks. I'm like, you're on deployment with all these videos you're putting out?
Yeah. I was I would I play a lot of Arma 3, and as you know, and I would get up super early in the morning, before anybody where I'm at, and play operations with the unit that I play with. And then after we'd get done with the operation, I'd be like, all right, I gotta go do stuff. And everyone's going to bed. So I thought it was kind of funny.
That's really funny. And the gaming aspect of it, is that something that is that abnormal, would you say, amongst people in your unit? Or is gaming not really a thing? Or is that,
No,
what?
I wouldn't say it's abnormal. I think that would surprise a lot of people. I think there's gamers. I think there's definite gamers in regiment, in the military, for sure. Is there a lot of people, I guess, who are content creators in active duty? I think there's a good amount, but I think it's not like a super prominent thing. Like, I mean, I'm hailed as like the nerd in my platoon, so it's still kind of like they still say that, like, oh, you're the nerd or whatever, but like, I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. I see you guys playing like RuneScape or a bunch of things, and I'm like, you're calling me a nerd, like, I just think it's kind of funny.
Kaitoshi said you're a Chad nerd. A churd.
Yes,
the
yes.
churd. The one and only churd.
The churd.
So what kind of games do you play on your content?
Right now, mainly tactical shooters. I play a lot of Arma with a couple of units that I play with. I mean, you guys as well, the FoddSquad and everybody. I play Insurgency Sandstorm, Squad, Escape from Tarkov, and but I'm kind of like more of a variety. I would call myself as, like, I don't just play tactical shooters. Like, I'm kind of a variety. Like, I mean, I'll play Overwatch. I'll play, I mean, all the way up to like NHL. I love playing NHL. I don't have NHL 20 yet, but I love playing that game with my friends back home. And yeah, I mean, I play everything, honestly.
And so one of the questions that I know I've been asked a lot, and I'm sure you get it even more than me because I did nerdy stuff in the Army, and then I play a couch operator in games. You do the real thing in the real world. What do you think it is about being a soldier, especially one that is in combat arms, and then basically going home and playing it in games? Why do you think that that's so appealing to soldiers?
Well, I know one thing. It's not appealing to every soldier. I think it takes a certain type of person, but I think it's appealing to a lot of them. Like I remember one time I got some of my buddies in from the platoon to come play Arma with me one time, and I was explaining it to them, and they're like, and as I was explaining it to them, they're like, "Oh, okay, so it's like I'm basically doing my job right now," like kind of making fun of me and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I mean, but like, there's definite people who like absolutely love the to implement. I think one of the main things why I love playing tactical shooters is I love to see tactical shooters where I can implement real world tactics into a video game. I think that's super cool. And if a video game is able to allow me to implement like a real world tactic and have it work, um, I think that's the coolest thing in the world. Hence why I play a lot of Arma, because you can implement some real world stuff in that.
That makes sense. And sort of one of the series that you've got going on YouTube, I think you said you're just about to finish it up, is a ranger plays Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and sort of on a scale of totally ridiculous to a 0 being totally ridiculous and 10 being it's 100% realistic. Like, how close do you think that game is, and maybe other games, to sort of getting it right as far as portraying those missions, sort of how they're executed, all that sort of stuff? How close, when we say video games have gotten more realistic, with the graphics and whatnot, how close have they actually gotten to the way that experience is?
I would say the newest Call of Duty Modern Warfare, their campaign is they obviously had very good technical advisors. I think when I watched like a couple of their behind the scenes, they had a couple of former SEALs that would do a lot of their military advising for them, and I think they did a very good job. A good example would be when you play which everybody knows, the Clean House mission and the Wolves Den missions, where you go in and you have night vision on and you're clearing this house and stuff like that. And I think the biggest things that impressed me about those missions were, every time when I was thinking in like a real world mindset, every time I was thinking about a dude who was making a mistake, or something could happen right here, because I've heard people tell me about it, or I've heard about things like that happen like that in real life. It happened in game, and that's how I knew that. I was like, wow, these guys had some actual people who've done this stuff in real life to tell them how to make this mission. Like, for example, when there's a guy who walks past the doorway and then they shoot through the door at him, that's like a big no in CQB. Is you don't walk across they call it the fatal funnel. You don't walk across a doorway, because obviously they can shoot right through that, and that's exactly where they're going to be. Like, I think you'll see it in my video as I go through that mission. I'm like, why are you going across that door? Why are you going across that doorway? And that's when he gets lit up. So I think they did a really good job at making you have to make quick decisions, and kind of implement them, and make you super stressed. I think that's very well depicted in that mission. Now, of course, it's Call of Duty, so they have to make it very flashy and very Hollywood-esque type. But overall, there are some little things that I have gripes with. But overall, I think they did a very good job for that game.
Okay, now here's where I'm gonna ask you to, what's a shooter that everyone says is like, dude, this is so realistic, like it's so great. Like, what's one that you've played where you're like, this is not realistic at all? Like, especially in the tactical genre. You got any good examples of that?
Let's see. I would have to think about that one for a second.
Okay, you can think about that. Let's so you play a lot of Arma. What are the two units that you play with?
So I play with, mainly I'm playing a lot with the Task Force Mohawk. It's a bunch of dudes. It's like an RP unit. They role play as other guys, as like Delta Force or CAG and DevGru, and they got CIA in there, SBS, SAS, any flag you fly, they'll have a unit for you that you can go in and play as, or most of them. And they there's that unit, and that's where it's like they get down to like super. They want their biggest thing is immersion. They want you to be immersed in the gameplay. So that's I think you see it in the gameplay that there's not a lot of joking around. I mean, it's in a, to take the coin away from dyslexia, it's serious fun. It's like we have a lot of fun with it, but we stay serious in it to keep the immersion. And then there's another group that I play with. Well, actually, there's a couple more groups. But I'm a part of the BDGxGRIM, which I've only played about one op with them, but they don't have a lot of ops. They kind of have them maybe like once a week. Those guys, you guys have probably seen Remy Down Under Gaming on YouTube. That guy is incredible in making his missions for Arma. I think he makes them very well for the 80 plus people that he has, and that's kind of more of a like you play as many different things. Like the one I played with, we were playing as the Marines in the Harvest Red campaign, except now the mission was called Harvest Green. But then we also play as like the BDGxGRIM. Obviously, if anybody knows like the Warhammer lore, it's from the Warhammer stuff, Warhammer 40K. So you can play as that. I will play as other things. Personally, I haven't played that yet, like around that realm yet, but I'm super excited to once they start getting more stuff set up. Another group I play with is Task Force Bangarang. That's basically a bunch of veterans like myself. You got Justin Red 87 on Twitch. He's a former Marine. Mr. SOCOM Dude, also a former Marine. Sarah from Solstice, also a former Marine, and a couple other guys that are vets on there too. And we all just get together and we play either Liberation or a multitude of different game modes together. And then obviously with you guys with the FoddSquad, I play a lot. I play with you guys with like Anastasi and any other cool missions that you guys got going too.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for playing with us. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course.
It was really funny. I think the first time we played together, and we were playing Arma, and then somehow I got put in charge, and I'm looking around, I'm like, why am I the one in charge? I'm the one who knows this the least. But aside from Arma, what do you think your favorite sort of tactical game is?
Besides from Arma, let's see here. I would probably say favorite tactical game. God, I mean, they all have their allure to them, in my opinion. Squad probably for a tactical game, mainly because Squad gets a lot of hate because of sometimes they can have a toxic community and all that stuff, but I think Squad has a very high emphasis on team play, and they implement suppression, like to be able to suppress someone, because that's like a huge thing in real life of when you're running what they call a battle drill, right? So in order to maneuver on the enemy, you have to keep them suppressed. You have to keep them fixed in one position, not be able to move, and basically make them feel like if they stick their head up right now, they're going to get shot and killed. And Squad does that in a way where, like, if you're getting shot at, you know it, and there's a fear factor to it because like the sound design in it is really good, and like if you die in Squad, you're not like spawning right back in about 5 seconds like Call of Duty or anything like that. You got to go spawn at a hab and get to the fight again and stuff like that. So people kind of treat their lives a little bit more. They don't just kind of like run and like throw away their lives willingly so much in Squad, and that's what allows the suppression effect in Squad to work. So because in real life, if you were to get caught in the open and someone's shooting at you, but you're able to suppress them and get fire superiority, as they say, and keep that person's head down, your survivability increases like tenfold rather than surviving for like only about 5 seconds after you just kind of get picked off in the middle of a field. So I think that would probably be my second best game in terms of tacticalness.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I obviously I really like Squad. I wish that their gunplay was a little better, but you know they'll get there eventually. That would. So you talked about sound design. That's one of the things that I've heard other combat vets that I've talked to talk about various like movies and TV shows and whatnot. Which game do you think that you've played has like the best sound design? Like really captures like that the feeling of what it's like to be on the battlefield.
Oh geez. So I think probably right now, and I had an early opinion of this of Escape from Tarkov. Now, obviously, Escape from Tarkov is a little bit like it's kind of like small scale, but when you're getting shot at in Escape from Tarkov, like I've heard people say, like Escape from Tarkov is like it's not marketed as a horror game, but it can be a horror game if you're playing by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you're getting shot at in Escape from Tarkov, like I've been playing it multiple times where like I would be just kind of like moving along and then I'd get shot at and I would jump because of like how first off how loud it is that you hear the snap of the round coming past you. And I don't personally think their sound design is the best after playing it for a prolonged period of time now, but I think the um for how small of unit and how small of uh for not having a lot of people on the ground and stuff and having to worry about like if you hear them and stuff and it's kind of like a game of cat and mouse. I think it's a very they implement the sound in that very well in the fact that like when you're getting shot at, you know it and it scares the crap out of you, especially if they're trying to suppress you.
We had a question earlier from Explosive Seal asking if the tinnitus ring from Tarkov, you know, when any explosions go off, like how realistic that sounds to you.
Oh, the tinnitus ring, yeah. I mean, if you're not wearing ear pro, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, your ears are gonna be ringing. You're not gonna hear much. And then I think it's really cool in Tarkov when you get shot in the head. Like, if you're wearing like a helmet that has a high enough armor where it's just gonna ricochet off, like you're gonna be out for the count for a little bit because you just took a round to the head, and you got blurry vision and all kinds of stuff like that. I think that's really cool how they implement that. And also another thing that I really love about Tarkov is the armor system that they have, where it's like certain rounds don't penetrate certain um armor, and like the fact that you could have like a 9mm like a MP5 or something and someone's wearing like a level or a class 6 armor, it's just kind of like it's like you're shooting them with an airsoft gun because it's not penetrating the armor. So I think that's a super cool implementation. That you don't see that in a lot of games. I know I've heard about it in World War III, but I have never played it myself, so I can't really speak on that point, but I really love the implementation of armor in a game like that.
And that one thing that people bring up a lot, and I've heard various opinions from people who've actually been out there and done it. How do you think Tarkov gets the balance between having a lot of armor, Vice being more mobile, and I mean, because they got to the point where there was like your turn radius is slower, like like bringing your weapon up, like the amount of armor you wear at various points in that game has really affected like your ability to operate on the battlefield. Would you say that they get that pretty accurate, or?
I would say they are getting there, but the thing is, here's my thing with video games um let's say stamina, because they just started implementing a stamina thing in the newest Tarkov update, I believe, and they implemented a weight system and stuff like your guy gets gassed more often. And although I do agree, like I know for a fact if I were wearing if were fully armored up like that guy in Tarkov and stuff, like I would be like I would be hating life because if I was sprinting around like that and having all that armor on, I'd be hating life. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I think they do get it right that way. Where like pulling your gun up, you get slower because you have more armor on, and like shooting with a face shield, especially, is you can't get that proper cheek to stock weld going. And um, I think they implement that very very well. Where like you're a lot slower if you have all that much armor on. Um, although for video games, you're kind of riding a very fine line, I think, because if you implement stamina, there's games that do it right and there's games that do it wrong. Do I think Tarkov does it wrong? From my opinion, no, I don't think they do it wrong because I haven't had a lot of complaints on my end from Tarkov. But there is certain games like where Arma, for example, if you have no stamina, your dude's gun is just like, what the heck is going on? Like, I don't understand. Like, even if I was gassed, I would not be moving like that. So I think Arma needs to needs to get that weapon sway crap down better. But when it comes to Tarkov, no, I think it's pretty good.
Awesome. Have you played Hell Let Loose?
I have played Hell Let Loose.
What's
yes.
your opinion on their suppression system in that? Because I know that that's a real contentious point. As somebody who has actually traded bullets with an enemy, do you?
I would say exactly what I'm agreeing with what Kayatoshi says. Mobility is versus firepower. Like, you need to keep moving in a combat situation because like there's a saying that they say where it's like fire without maneuver is indecisive and maneuver without fire is suicidal or catastrophic depending on who you hear it from. You have to be able to keep the dudes heads down, and in video games it's very hard to implement a suppression system because the biggest thing is the whole reason why you're getting suppressed is because you fear for your life. Like when you're trying to suppress a dude, like you may not be shooting very accurately at a guy, but you may just be unloading on the guy. And it's not necessarily in order to hit him. Obviously, if you hit him, it'd be great. But if you weren't hitting him, at least you were scaring him enough that basically if he were to lift his head up, he is going to get hit. And for a video game, you have to, it's really hard to implement that because nobody's afraid for their life. If people were saying like I think some other guys were saying like in Remy from Down Under Gaming, he was saying like the only way you could really get that to work in a game is if you had something like VR where like if you got shot, you like had a shock that like shock your arm, or if you got shot in the arm, you got shocked in the arm or your chest or something like that, because like then you would like you don't want to get hit, so you're stuck behind cover, and it's really hard to implement that. But I think the way games are trying to implement them now, it makes sense. And honestly, I haven't played Hell Let Loose in a long time, and is it in Hell Let Loose, is it more so like it just takes your vision away, like you just can't see?
Your vision like cones in and you lose a lot of vision, but if you get to a certain level of suppressed, your arms kind of do this motion, like you cannot effectively return fire. It's basically what the mechanic does. It's like you're sitting there with your weapon, and then all of a sudden the tank starts unloading its rounds towards you. Your guy is completely combat ineffective to actually return fire. You could still move, but you cannot aim. Is basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think the way that they try to implement it is like they're saying like you are being suppressed. So like you probably don't feel it as the gamer who's like just playing the game, don't feel it like, oh god, like I'm gonna die, like, but your guy would be like, I don't want to fucking stick my head up. So
Yeah.
they try to implement that with like taking away your vision and stuff like that. And like I think people don't understand that like if you were getting shot at like that in real life, and that what they're trying to implement here is like authenticism and like realistic, and try to be realistic with it. They're trying to implement where basically suppression fire makes sense in a video game. And if people were to get mad at something like that, I would say, and they're saying at something like they want realism, like realistically, you wouldn't be sticking your head up if someone's suppressing you with a tank. So
Yeah.
like to that, I would say I think they're doing just fine. I think they're trying to do something new and trying to address an issue that is very hard to address.
Do you feel like when rounds are coming back at you from downrange, that you, with enough, I don't know, like obviously you've got a lot of training behind you. Do you think it's still possible to effectively return fire? Like, do you think if you feel as though in that sort of suppression sense of like, okay, there's enough rounds going around me that this is accurate enough that I'm legit scared about looking up. Do you think you could still effectively pick out a target at 50 to 100 meters and hit them?
I would say if you're able to effectively return fire while getting effectively suppressed, because not only are you the thing that people don't realize too is like when a round goes by you, yeah, you hear the snap, you hear like and stuff like that, but like there's sometimes where like a round would go by you and it would be you would feel the heat of the round depending on how large the round is. And like you would feel it like getting when someone I the way I can explain it is when if say someone's shooting next to you on the range and they're like right next to you, you feel that overpressure from that explosion of the gun right next to you, right? Like you feel that kind of smacking you in the face, kind of smacking right next to you. Because it's not just like the sound, like the snaps going by you, like you can definitely feel those rounds if they depending on how close they get to you. Even on like a range, like if they have these things called these pop-up ranges where basically like you would sit just below a berm and you would put the targets up for the guys to shoot at long range. And what I would tell some of the new guys, or like even some of the guys that would tell me when I first did that, they're like remember this sound because this is what it sounds like to have incoming like fire come at you. You know, like you hear that snap, like that's so. To answer your question, for someone to like be just engaging you with we'll say like a machine gun or just like shooting really fast at you from 50 to 100 meters away, would you be able to accurately engage that person? I would say it would depend on the person. I think. I mean, there's obviously a level of fear in the person, and if like if you just don't care about your life or something like that, then maybe. But I know if someone were shooting at me from 50 to 100 meters away and I had cover, I would be getting in that cover while returning fire. But that's the whole point of an engagement, though, is you have to gain fire superiority. Otherwise, you're just going to get pinned, and they'll be able to maneuver on you and close with and kill you. So, to answer your question, could you engage accurately? Probably not. Could you engage? Could you engage them? Yes, 100%. I would be mag dumping at them to try and keep them to get their head down so I can maneuver on them.
Cool. Thanks for that, by the way, because it's just one of those things, you know, like most people who are making video games have never been in combat. They might have technical advisors and whatnot, but I think there's you know, like anything else, there's going to be certain aspects that are missed or not well understood unless you've actually been there and done that. So you know, info like that I think is really good for people. I mean, there's a lot of people who play the sorts of games we do who obviously aspire to either join the military or something like that. But oftentimes, like I find it's like a thing where a lot of people who wanted to join the military but for whatever reason could not end up in the tactical gaming space. Like maybe they had asthma, maybe they got hurt while they were training, something like that. And you find them like their minds and their mind and heart are in the right spot. They just weren't able to actually do that. And so I think you get a lot of armchair combat vets, you know, like they survived 2 campaigns in Arma sort of situation. So whenever I read forums and people are like, I don't understand. If I had a Car 98 and somebody's bearing down, you know, with a BAR, I could totally still hit them. And I'm just like, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think so. Like,
yeah. Like, and I'm not trying to like toot my own horn here. I'm not trying to say I've been in so many firefights or anything like that. I personally, I know guys who have been through a lot more than I have. Like I have been through not that much, but to answer your questions, like is somebody going to be able to accurately engage you or accurately engage someone that's going to be already has the jump on you and stuff? I don't think so. I don't think you'll be able to.
So what's your favorite weapon in all these tactical games we're playing? What do you like to pull out the most? Are you an M4 guy?
I'm an M4 guy. I do love the M4. I love the modability of it.
Do you in your battalion slash company slash whatever, do you guys have to follow SOP for your weapons, or is it something that's kind of like per person?
There's SOP for sure, but there's also like you kind of have a little bit of a say in what you use for, like, say, an optic.
Mm-hmm.
There's EOTechs, there's Elcans, there's guys who rock Vortex razors. I believe that's the brand name for them. But you kind of have a little bit of a say, but there is an SOP for us, yes.
That's like, is it like, do you guys rock like PEQs or?
Yep. LA5s and stuff like that.
Cool. And so do you set up your weapon in games like you would in real life?
I definitely have done that, yeah. I would set up my M4 and Arma a lot of times how I have it set up in real life. I'm a lefty, so like it's harder for me to actually set it up how I have it in real life, just because I have the laser and the pressure switches in different positions where a righty would have it. But
I think we call that being wrong-sided, actually.
Yes, you're right. I am wrong-handed, as they call me.
For an M4, it's wrong-handed. Let's be honest. That brass coming out right in your face.
Yeah, for an M4, it's not as bad. If you're shooting a saw, it's the most painful thing ever for your forearm, because that's where it shoots the links out at, and it hits your forearm. I have scars still on my forearm from when I was a saw gunner. Like, you probably can't see them, but there's like a legitimate scar right here on my forearm from barrel burns and brass that's hitting my forearm constantly. It's just like, it's not fun being a left-handed saw gunner.
And Skeeter Bolt brings up being able to shoot ambidextrously. Is that something you guys train on?
Not a lot, but they do train it.
So when you're doing like, you know, having to pop out from cover and whatnot, are you
am I switching shoulders?
Yeah, are you comfortable? Okay.
I don't usually do it. I don't think I'm a good enough shooter right now to be switching shoulders and engaging like that. Now, can you do that? Yes, 110%. But for my confidence level, I don't do that.
And what sort of sidearm do you prefer?
I use a Glock 19.
You're a Glock guy?
Yeah. If I had a choice, I would probably use a Glock 17, just because it fits better in my hand. It's a little bigger.
You got those big hands, those big banana hands?
I wouldn't say I got big hands, but I got like wide hands, I guess you would say, and it just fits better in my hand. And
it's not big, it's big boned.
Yeah, it's big boned, yeah. But it just fits better in my hand. A Glock 17 does, and it's been a while since I've even held a Glock 17. But back when I was in police academy and college and stuff, we had Glock 17s, and I really liked it because it fit my hand well. And then I tried to shoot a Glock 19, and I shoot a Glock 19 now in the Army. I'm used to it now, but it's just a smaller gun that doesn't fit well in my hand.
And is that standardized across your
It's standardized for us, yes. We shoot the Glock 19. I think the regular the standard issue pistol for the Army now is the SIG P320, I think it's called.
I mean, the units I was in, we shot M16 A2 muskets and M9, so I don't really have a whole lot of.
Oh, dude, when I went through RASP, they were still shooting the M9, and I hate the M9, man.
Imagine being an armorer for it. That was the worst. I hated working on M9s. They're the worst, especially because officers don't ever clean or do it, whatever. I can go down a rabbit hole on that. It's amazing how officers never clean their own weapons. They always gave it to the armorer dirty and then gave that look like, you're not going to accept this. So VR. I've seen you play VR with Justin Red a few times, especially Onward, which big shout out to those guys. I really enjoy that game. How do you feel like the immersion level is in a game like that versus, you know, your standard first-person shooter, keyboard and mouse?
Oh, it's immersive. I like it. I mean, honestly, the fear factor is there too for that, because I don't know if you've played it or not, but like when those dudes are coming at you, like, not usually when you're shooting at them, but when they get close to you, like, your perception of like how large these dudes are, because for some reason they decided to make these guys like 8 feet tall.
They are some big Slavic mofos, aren't they?
It's like straight up Russian Spetsnaz Ivan coming at you, like ginormous dude, and like and the AI just like they run at you even when you're dead. So like when you're standing there and they run right up to you like super fast, I flinch a few times. I'm like, Jesus, like he's gonna hit me. But no, in terms of like immersion, I think it's really cool. I think I get pretty immersed when I play it.
Do you think that that's kind of the future of Milsim, or you think that's got a ways to go?
I think it's got a ways to go, but then again, when I think about that, there's I mean, technology has advanced so much in the past 10 years. So I would say in like the next 5 years, it's going to look really cool, I think. But yeah, in the tactical space, like VR is super cool. But in order for them to actually implement like moving around and stuff, because right now you're just standing and using your thumbs to move yourself around. And I've seen like treadmills and stuff of guys using treadmills and like the omnidirectional thing, which is really cool. I've never used one, but I think that they're going the right direction for sure. It's a lot of fun.
Would that be, do you think that's a useful, or it could be a useful training tool?
Yes. I have I've shown multiple guys in the regiment me playing Onward, and like I've had them come into my room and play it, and they're like, at every single time, I swear, every single person I bring in here and they play it, they're like, you could actually use this for training. And I'm like, I know, right? You definitely could, because like there's times in the army where it's like you can't get out to the range, or it's raining, or some whatever reason you got something going on, but you're stuck inside. Well, I mean, you fired up. I mean, Onward. I'm pretty sure they have maps now you can make. So like if I like made a map of like a shoot house that we have, people could literally run through that shoot house and get dry runs in VR and get a better understanding than like what we call glass houses, where it's like you just like lay out the rooms in with engineer tape and just kind of like run through them that way, but you can see through them all. That's why they're called glass houses. But like to be able to do it in VR and kind of get to know like how the space actually looks like in real life, I think that would definitely help for training.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I always thought that, you know, being a guy who did the EST 2000 a few times, and then I had the opportunity. Did you ever have you ever trained on the I think they call it gunslinger system?
I have not.
Oh, okay. It's like a EST 2000 on crack. It's like they had one in bomb holder. Is really cool. Obviously they would have it in bomb holder considering the units that are tenant there. But the basically the idea behind that is it's essentially air powered weapons, not unlike EST 2000, but it's all internally, so you have no like cables or anything coming off of you. And they've got a bunch of screens and various things, but they can put the screens up anywhere, and there's like even a room where they can where you can do like actual CQC. Like they'll set up like a small shoot house, and there's screens all over the place for that. And so as you go through it, they have like all these cameras at different angles, and those cameras are doing like actual number crunching behind the scenes. So they can be like, you know, it'll automatically tell you like, hey, from flashbang until first round on target was, 2 seconds, but you really need to get that down to like 1.2 seconds or something like that. It's like basically they took a athletics like physiology idea that it was basically created by former special forces guys working with baseball physiologists, basically. Like, so they said, okay, sports have been doing this for a long time, where they put you in something and they stress you, and then they very minutely break down your actions. Why don't we do that for soldiers who are going to be? It's basically another form of athletics. It's really interesting.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I'm not sure if the program's still going on. It was really cool, and it was like a 2015 that I did it, so I don't know if it was like if the bang ever happened on it, but it was a really cool system that they had basically in a trailer that they could just pull up somewhere, deploy, and then suddenly you're kicking in doors in a CQC shoot house with enemies on display, and they can have it interactive and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's really cool. I think the Army it'd be really cool if they actually did implement some VR stuff like that. I mean, like not large scale, because I don't want to say that like actually doing it in real life is obviously way better than doing it in VR. But like, there's just been times where it's like when you can't go, when you don't have time to get to the range, you don't have time to get out to the shoot house or something like that, and guys are just sitting around. You know, like we have guys, our new guys are always looking in their knowledge packets and learning about stuff, but there's times where it's like they've just been sitting and staring at their knowledge packet for the past like 3 hours. It's like, okay, well, and their team leader may not have time because he's trying to do admin stuff at that time, or all these different things. Is like, okay, well, it'd be really cool one day where like they're all right, let's go upstairs or wherever and just fire up the old VR and just run through some shoot houses that we already have in the system, and they can just kind of like go up there and practice what they've been taught before and kind of practice it doing VR. So that way they have a good understanding of it, and they have like actual visual feedback from doing it.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I mean, and especially because of how easy it is to set up. That's something you could just hand to a team leader or a squad leader and be like, hey, you know, have your guys do some 2x2s or something like that.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool if they implemented something like that.
Cool. And then you know, we talked about immersion. How like how would you say that you know, playing games and getting really immersed like in this is in some way cathartic, or is it stressful? Like, you know, like there's always like a question about like, you know, having actually been under real combat stress, like how does that translate into a game? You know, is it something that could be terrifying? Is it something that like kind of gets your adrenaline going in the same way, therefore it's like more alluring? Like how does that break down for you?
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, I don't think it's terrifying or anything like that, but I think it's really cool how they can make you feel like um oh my gosh, I'm gonna get shot or something like that. Like, I think it's really cool like that. It, like I said, for video games to be able to implement, you know, something like that in real life, or getting shot at or like anything like that, I don't think they'll be able to implement that unless they actually do like some sort of feedback system. But you really can't do that because you just don't fear for your life. But I definitely think the immersion of it, I mean, they're getting there where like you're feeling really immersed. Like, I mean, like I said in Tarkov, where like it can be a horror game if you think about it, where like you're just creeping through a hallway and you're trying to listen super hard for any sort of footsteps or anything, or like you're moving and all of a sudden you hear footsteps and you don't move, and it's kind of like a game of cat and mouse. Like, I think they do that really well.
Awesome. Well, that's most of the questions that I had for you. I've taken some questions from chat, and then people can keep asking questions while we do a little bit of Q&A here at the end. One of the questions that was asked a lot earlier by Kaitoshi: how many burpees can you do?
How many burpees can I do? Oh gosh, I don't know. Like, it's consecutively.
I think consecutively.
Oh god, I have no idea. I would probably be able to get to like 50 and then get gassed. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be extremely gassed at that point.
What do you guys do, like PRT, or do you guys have like special Ranger PT?
We don't do PRT. We kind of stick to doing, well, a lot of times what they've been kind of gravitating towards now is the mountain tactical stuff. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Mm-mm.
it's called, I think they abbreviate it as like MTI. There, if you look them up, I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's like mountain tactical. They do a bunch of stuff where it's like kit runs or kit sprints. I wouldn't say kit runs. And there's like sandbag get ups. There's a lot of really awkward stuff that they try to implement, like how you would what you would be doing in combat, or like, you know, in a situation like that. They try to implement it like that to where and they have all kinds of different programs for like training for, say, Afghanistan, for like a mountainous terrain, or training for different goals of yours or something like that. So we a lot of guys do that, like the MTI is what it's called. And there's a couple other ones that I can't really remember, but I wouldn't say that they stick with, and regiment has their own program, and it's called, I think they call it the Aries program. And I've used it, but I haven't personally used it a lot. But it's definitely like in depth, super regimented, and for like certain things that you're trying to do, like they have different programs for different things. Like if you're just coming off a ranger school and your body is, you know, broken down after being in ranger school, they have like a program to get you back up into shape for that. They have programs for strength, power, endurance, all different kinds of things, and it's super in depth. Like I'm not people always are wondering like how come they don't have a program? They do. We do have a program. We have a very good program in place. I just know a lot of guys who use like the MTI stuff.
What do you think of the new PT test?
The combat fitness test?
Yeah.
I think they should change the name.
Yeah.
I think look, it's a really hard thing they're trying to do. So I'm not trying to knock what they're trying, like I'm not trying to say like it's all bad, but if you want to be able to measure someone's combat fitness, I'm talking about someone who's able to perform in a combat environment, basically where you're moving long distances with a lot of weight or stuff like that. I personally think, and I think they should implement this. I personally think here's what they should do. They should do the 12-mile ruck march in under 3 hours, which I think they do for everybody. And I'm talking about just infantry here. They should do the 12-mile ruck march in under 3 hours. But the biggest thing though with this is the 12-mile ruck march should be in full kit, because what they do now is they do the 12-mile ruck march with a rucksack that's 35 pounds dry. So that means that you have 35 pounds in the rucksack without your water, and then you throw your water in there, which then makes it about 40-ish pounds. That isn't necessarily realistic, because when you're going out on target, or like you're walking around, you're weighing a lot more than 35 pounds and just some water. You got all your armor on, you got your weapon, you got all your magazines, you got any other extra gear you got. So personally, I think if you want to get an accurate assessment on someone's ability to take a rucksack and move 12 miles in under 3 hours, how fast they can do it, they have to do it in full kit. Another thing that you could do that I think measures your fitness for combat really well is what they call it the RPAT, the Ranger Physical Assessment Test, where you wear body armor, a helmet, and you're in full uniform, like just your combat fatigues, and you do a 1 mile run. I believe. Okay, so let me think here. I think it's a 2 mile run with all that kit on.
And boots.
And boots, yep. And you run to 2 miles, get back. You do a rope climb, a Skedco drag, a 50. I think it's like 100. I don't remember how heavy the Skedco drag is. A Skedco drag for about 50 meters, 100-meter sprint. I think the rope climb is like 20 feet. You jump over an 8-foot wall. You climb a caving ladder. I think there's one other thing you do, but you do all that, and then you go and you run another mile. But the thing is, for that also, like, that people don't think about is you're only doing that in your body armor and helmet. You're not doing that in, say, full kit, where it's like, say, you got your weapon, you got your magazines. Now, do you have to have a rucksack on? No, because you're not going to be able to climb a rucksack, a 20-foot rope with a 40-pound rucksack on your back plus everything else. No, I'm not saying you'll be able to do that. What I am saying though is, if you add the gun into it, all your magazines, I think that's more accurately of how someone's going to perform than, say, just the body armor and the helmet. So you got your 12-mile ruck march with all your kit. You got your RPAT, and then I think that's those two things. I think those two things are very are more accurate at measuring someone's ability to perform physically in combat than the combat fitness test for sure.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the idea of taking a soldier like I was and doing a combat fitness test is kind of funny, because
Yeah.
when you have a bunch of nerds that are non-deployable and sitting in an air-conditioned room, with no windows
Right.
for 12 hours a day, it's harder to assess whether they could. Yeah, and I always felt like I get the Army's like mentality of like everyone's soldier first, and there's a very good chance that if you were to deploy, you might end up having to to go either outside the wire or if you're on a fob, defend it, something like that. Like I get the desire to have people combat ready, but at the same time I was always like, as they were introducing and ramping up some of the stuff, like the moment I saw that they had the deadlift in the new test, I was like, well, half the soldiers that I served with are going to be broken because they've never done a deadlift in their life. Like their form's going to be terrible and they're going to get hurt. But but it's,
I think like you said, I think it's good to have everybody, in shape, and in case anything like that were to happen, or like if a fob were to get attacked, or for someone to be able to perform physically, and not be completely useless. I think that's something they should do. But like, should they be doing something as intense as like say what I just explained? No, I don't think they need to do that. But for somebody who's going to be in the infantry and doing a combat arms thing like that, yes, 110%. I think they need to go through something like that, because I don't think the CFT is a very accurate assessment of somebody's physical fitness. Neither do I think the old stuff of like how many push-ups and sit-ups you can do. That has nothing to do with bounding 100 meters. Like, I don't care how many push-ups you can do. Like, it's I don't agree with that.
That's funny. Okay, another question from chat. Taki asked, what games do you like the most? Modern games, future games, or like historic World War II games?
Depends on the mood, but I like modern games because I like modern games because that way you don't have to worry about like I said before, my biggest thing that I love about gaming and tactical shooters is the ability to implement real world tactics in them. So if I have a modern game where they have, all of the modern weapon systems that we have now, you don't have to worry about someone who's got a laser gun that can shoot you two miles away, then whereas in modern times you don't have something like that. So you don't have to change your SOP or anything like that. So I like modern games mostly.
Which do you like more? Games with like combined arms like Arma, or games that are like much more infantry focused?
I think they both have their pull. I really do like the combined arms aspect. I think it's really cool when you can get like in Arma where you can get like, someone flying a jet, you got someone in armor, and you got an infantry component. I think that's super cool to pull all that together, and that's what makes Arma. That's what makes that game so amazing, to see like a group of people and players to come together and just like pull out an operation like that and see everything go down. I think it's the coolest thing ever. But I also do like the small scale room clearing, like infantry type tactics. I think that's really cool too. I'm a huge sucker for like CQB type stuff, because that's like my favorite thing to do in real life. So I could go either way with that. Depends on how I feel.
I think it's so funny that you play Arma primarily, but CQB is your favorite, because I always felt like Arma CQB is so janky.
Yeah, Arma CQB is super janky, but like I said, there's other games that'll like tickle my fancy for that type of stuff.
Taki swears this is a real question, a serious question. Do you like cheese?
Do I like cheese? I love cheese.
I don't know anyone who doesn't like cheese. I think if you don't like, I don't do dairy at all, and I still like cheese. I mean, I just can't have it.
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't like cheese? But
when I was a kid, I'd eat cheese right off the block, dude. I love cheese.
You just endeared Taki to you forever. The Kayatoshi asked a question that I'm going to transfer into a different one. What's your favorite MRE?
My favorite MRE. Ooh, it's funny. Like a little bit ago, I just had the pizza MRE, and that tasted actually pretty good. That's the first time I've ever had it.
Speaking of cheese.
Huh?
Speaking of cheese, pizza MRE.
Of cheese. Yeah. My favorite MRE, I think I would have to say that comes to mind is the meatball marinara, because you can put now all the new meatball marinara, they have the Italian breadsticks with them, and they also have the jalapeno cheese. And if you put like you keep the Italian breadsticks by the side, but if you put the jalapeno cheese inside the meatball marinara, oh, so good.
That sounds really good.
Mhm.
One thing that I've always considered kind of a test of who's actually been in the army is if you make the joke ending with a rock or something, people tend to know what you're talking about. If somebody gives you a blank look, they clearly weren't in the army. If you're like, yeah, just put it against a rock or something, they're like, what are you talking about, a rock or something?
I love that. In the directions, everything
Yeah.
is so regimented in the army, and they have like a word for everything. But for an MRE, they literally put a rock or something.
A rock or something. It's great. I love it. The picture, just like a little looks like a 4-year-old drew it. The Broji asked what your favorite real world weapon system is.
My favorite real world weapon system. Ooh. I'm gonna probably have to go with the M4 again. I love the M4.
Have you fired any of the variants, like the HK 416 or any of the other kinds?
I have, but not a lot. Not enough to like make an actual opinion on it. Like if I were to choose like what I'd want to shoot, I would probably go with the 416, just because I think like it's better. I think it's piston driven. It's a cleaner weapon. I think that would probably be the better way to go. I know a lot of other units have gravitated towards that now, so I would probably go with that. But I love M4s.
Do you guys use dip tanks or do you hand clean?
Hand clean.
Oh,
Dip
man.
tanks. What are those?
Have you really never used a dip tank?
I've never used a dip tank.
Oh, it's a lifesaver. It's literally it just like it sounds. You take the weapon apart, you put it in these little slots, and then you dip it into this chemical, which I'm sure there's going to be a lawsuit about in like 20 years. And then you pull it back up, and all the carbon has fallen off.
No, we have never used anything like that. I wish we did have something like that.
Well, that was whenever as an armor we had to turn in weapons to like the main to like the depot level maintenance. They were like, they don't want to see it if you haven't dipped it. They're like, you could clean all you want, doesn't matter. We don't want to see it unless you dip it. So there's a dip tank outside of their place. We never got to use it on range or anything, but like when I went to go do like yearly maintenance or whatever, I had to dip them all.
I should ask my armorers that. See if they dip it. If they dip it when they send it to the other stuff. But I've never done it myself.
Have you ever fired a tricked up 74 or any AK variant? Yeah.
Yeah, I've shot AKs before. I've shot the 47 AKM.
But have you ever fired one that actually has like is more than
like
wood
a tricked
furniture?
out one?
Yeah.
You mean like
a chat
no.
AK.
A chat AK.
Chat's gonna be so mad at me in a second. I know.
I don't think I've ever shot a tricked out AK like that.
Cool. Sorry, just answering a question you already said there. Yeah, I really. What sorts? I mean, it's mostly AKs that you come across on the battlefield, right? I mean, that's pretty much the standard. Anything else cool you've ever seen?
Dragonovs, Mosin Nagants.
Have you fired a Dragonov?
I have not fired a Dragonov, no. Mosin Nagants, I mean RPGs, just your typical weapons that everybody sees. I can't think of any. I'm trying to think of like maybe some like super not tricked out, but like unique weapons that I've seen.
And any really old ones like grease guns or any of those like
I haven't seen any
real
grease guns,
surplus
Although
stuff.
I have heard stories of guys taking grease guns with them.
Back home.
Yeah. I don't. Oh, gosh.
What fouls?
I feel like I haven't seen any fouls. No. I feel like I've seen a few like super unique weapons, but I've never really. I guess they're just not memorable.
Yeah. What about a Dushka on their pickup truck?
Oh, Dishka, yeah, Dishka. Definitely seen those. Let's see here. Yeah, I can't. Nothing's coming to mind. But yeah, I've seen Dishkas and stuff like that.
You ever work with like ANA or any of the other local indigenous forces on mission?
Yep. Worked with ANA. I've worked with a couple other forces. We have like our own little unit that we train, just our guys train, that kind of goes out with us. That's part of the Afghan army, but it's a little bit more special. But yeah, I've trained with them and stuff like that.
What was that experience like?
Oh, they're in my experience, I think there are few and far between guys that are actually motivated to do the job. But there's other units, not talking about A&A, but like other guys that I know that I've like, they're very motivated. I wouldn't mind fighting with them side by side because you can tell they want to do the job. But for A&A, they're, in my opinion, mostly lazy. Now there are guys there that are super hard chargers and very motivated, but there's a lot of lazy dudes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now the ANA, is that like do they volunteer or is that like a conscription?
I think it's volunteer.
Oh, okay.
I honestly don't know.
So we'll ask one more question here. Taki asked, biggest weapon you've ever shot.
Biggest weapon I've ever shot. Ooh. Are we talking about something that I've fired like in my hands, or like a mounted weapon?
I mean, I think the idea is a shoulder fired weapon. I mean, obviously you've probably fired M2s quite a bit, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean M2s, Mark 47s. I guess the biggest weapon I've ever fired, shoulder fired, would be the 84 millimeter Carl Gustav, because I used to be a goose gunner. It's basically the bazooka of the regiment, for lack of a better term.
I thought the Carl Gustav went out of style.
No, it's definitely still used. They have the new variant, which is the Mark IV, or I guess the Army's variant, what they call it. They love to give it a new name, like the Mike Echo 01 or something like that. It uses a new targeting system, which is really cool. And you can range targets, and then also it just adjusts the laser for you, nice. Dot for you, so you just put it on the tank after you've lased it or whatever you're shooting at. But they've just found out that thing explodes when you stress test it, so we don't use it anymore.
I mean, it's great. It works 99% of the time. The other 1%, it just explodes. It just kills you. Sometimes you kill the enemy. Sometimes you blow up yourself. That's the best.
Yeah, they don't. Now that's the new Carl Gustav. The old Carl Gustavs are fine. I guess the new one has some problems that we did have. We did have it, and we did start using it. But I definitely remember a time when we were shooting a lot of it one time, and we were shooting so many rounds that it was shooting a fireball out the back, and dudes' arms were catching on fire from it. So to hear after a while later that it explodes is like, okay, that kind of makes sense.
We're almost there. That's great.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you can't have fun in the Army unless it's a little dangerous.
I mean, it's a super, the weapon system is great considering the targeting system you use for it now, or the new one. I mean, when they told me that it explodes, I was like, excuse me. When they tell you that it explodes, I was like, okay, what are the odds that, because we were about to go shoot, I was like, what are the odds that it's actually going to explode on us right now? Because I really like that targeting system.
Let's do an over under on whether we actually get blown up today or we just have a really good time.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you do you guys have the 203? Did you still have the 203 when you came in, or had it been phased out yet?
We use the 320.
Have you fired the 203?
I don't know if I've actually fired the 203, but I fired the 320 extensively.
Yeah. I was gonna ask your comparison because I was a 203 guy, and then the 320 came around and I wasn't a fan, so I was looking for some validation.
Did you have the 320 mounted on the bottom of the gun?
That's when I hated it. I liked it individually when you pull it off.
I don't have it mounted on the gun. I usually have it on my hip and I fire it individually.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I mean, that was the whole point of it. Like, the moment I saw it attached to the bottom of the gun, I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, not a fan of it either.
Cool. Well, I think that's enough interview for us. I'm gonna need to take a minute to get my daughter set up with something, but Grim, if you want to do, plug your stuff and talk about where people can find you on the internet, maybe anything you got going on right now that you'd like to draw attention to.
Yeah, well, I mean, for Twitch, it's what you see on screen, BDGxGRIM. BDG stands for Blue Diamond Gaming. It's just a group of my guys, my buddies back home. It's me, which is Grim, and they got Big Warps. We got Uncle Joey. We got all kinds of guys. Just from some of my buddies back home. We got my YouTube, which is Blue Diamond Gaming, which is basically blue_diamond_gaming. We got my Twitch, which is, gosh, I have all different kinds of names for everything. Mainly because they don't have like all the same, or the names are taken. But my Twitch, which would be Blue Diamond Game, which is GAM3 at the end. We got Instagram, which is BDGgrim, I believe. The same thing as my Twitch. And yeah, that's so far. Oh, we also, my buddy Warps actually just got on TikTok now. So we just got like a Blue Diamond TikTok.
Oh,
so,
what's your ad on TikTok? I'll add you right now. I didn't know that.
I think we got right now, it's just at Big Warps right now. So it's just BIGWARPZ.
Oh my goodness, I hate that TikTok automatically starts playing a video when you go there.
Yeah. So those, I think, are all of the socials we got right now. I try to upload one video a week for YouTube, but I mean, right now I've been on the hustle grind, so I've been uploading one video a day for the past, I don't know, months now. So videos right now daily. When things start getting a little busier in my life, they'll probably go down to one video a week, and then yeah.
How do you do that? Because I'm constantly impressed by your ability to push out so much content.
Well, I'm in the process of getting out of the military right now, so I'm not necessarily working with my platoon as much as I would be. So that gives me a lot more time. I've just had a little bit more time on my hands now. When I get out and everything and things and work and stuff like that, then I'll have less time and it'll probably be less videos. But right now I have a lot of time, so I'm just like grinding them out.
So what's your process that allows you to push them out? Do you just watch back the video and say, hey, here's a great chunk. This is the chunk that is the video. How is it that you actually, because like for me, when I go through videos, like it takes me a long time because I'm like splicing a bunch of small stuff, but I feel like you usually are able to distill down like a core component of like the action on your video.
I'm always, whenever I'm playing games now, I kind of have like this mindset where it's like I'll be playing and like something cool will happen. I'll just like keep a mental chunk in my head. I'd be like, or a mental note, like that's what I want to put in my video or whatever. So I'll just mentally remember that and I'll be like, all right, and then I'll go back and edit it. And I kind of have like a little formula. Like for my Arma videos, I'll start it when the action's about to start, and then I'll end it obviously when we get extracted or something. Of course, sometimes in my videos I'll put a little hook. So like when the action's high, I'll put like the first 10 seconds of the video as that to kind of hook people in. Because Arma, as we know, Arma sometimes can be kind of slow at first, but then it ramps up obviously very fast. But other than that, yeah, I just kind of got into a routine and just kind of, yeah, I have a little bit of a routine right now.
What do you use to edit videos?
I use DaVinci Resolve.
Okay, cool. Same as me. I mean, it's nice because it's free, right?
Yeah, very nice.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Grim, for coming on. That was just a repeat. Twitch.tv / Bravo Delta Golf X-Ray Golf Romeo India Mike. So BDGxGRIM on Twitch. You can find him at blue_diamond_GAM3, and then on Instagram at BDGxGRIM as well there, and then apparently TikTok at Big Warps. How's Instagram working for you, by the way? I have a hard time with Instagram.
Right. I mean, like I said, I'm still kind of trying to like get into Instagram and like how I'm actually going to start, putting out content on that. I just kind of take like, kind of like what you're doing, like what cool looking photos, and I'll just start posting them.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us.
Yeah.
For those of you guys in chat, we're gonna pop over here and play a little bit of Insurgency Sandstorm in a second. For everyone listening on the podcast, please give us a like or a thumbs up or whatever the variant is on wherever you listen to it. And go ahead and make sure to go give Grim follows on all those platforms and check out his content. It's great, cool dude. Very physically fit. He's interesting to watch. Very, very good candy for the eyes. Or something
thanks,
like
man.
that.
I appreciate it.
But with that, I'm gonna take a very short break to get my daughter set up, and then we'll start playing some games. Thanks for everyone's comes out, and I'll talk to you in a second, Grim.
Sounds good.